Hello and welcome to Stubtown, PSU TV's review show. Today, we're talking Rogue One.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
You want to get out of here?
Our rebellion is all that remains to push back the Empire.
We think you might be able to help us.
When was the last time you were in contact with your father?
What is this?
It appears he is critical to the development of a super weapon.
If my father built this thing, we need to find him.
All right. How many do I need?
They are requesting a call sign.
It's, Rogue. Rogue One.
Would either of you like to do a quick little recap of what Rogue One is about?
It's all you, Jimmy.
Okay, Rogue One.
The excitement. It's real.
Rogue One is a simple heist/adventure story about actually, the best way to describe it is the Dirty Dozen meets Star Wars. All right, a group of ragtag people, some orphans and whatnot in the world, get together and steal the plans for the Death Star.
Yep. So that's exciting. So the first thing I'd like to talk about, because it sort of helped, like, because in a franchise, it's always hard to talk about like what's different about this movie. So let's just sort of start there with Gareth Edwards' cinematography. What did you guys think of the look of this movie?
I mean, I felt like he did a good job of keeping it feeling like a Star Wars movie still, or at least what Disney's done with Star Wars so far. But it also had its own sort of tone, which was a lot darker. You know, content aside, because there's a significantly darker content in this Star Wars movie than there is in other ones, but also with the tone and the feel through the cinematography. Yeah. I felt like that was assisted. Definitely.
I was impressed by a lot of the space shots. It felt like there was a real effort to make it feel like a different way of looking at these things. Especially the opening. I thought the opening was a very strong choice, showing the weird, like,
the
rings of Saturn, but like it looks like blocks of color at first. I was very much like, what the hell am I looking? Oh.
Yeah, that was cool.
I appreciated the effort put in there to do sort of non-standard Star Wars imagery. The one thing I really got to applaud him for is his sense of scale.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the Empire feels so huge and oppressive in this movie. I especially love the shot of the Star Destroyer over the city.
Oh yeah.
It just seems so over, like it's literally casting this giant shadow.
Yeah,
and while I'm not a big fan of his Godzilla movie, his ability to convey the enormity of some of this stuff is really, really well done.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that.
I also liked that, speaking to the cinematography, it definitely looks lived in. The world looks lived in.
Absolutely.
You know, anything that happens that isn't the Empire, because the Empire is very clean and cut and, you know, sterile. And the rest of the world is dirty and grimy and, you know, lots of different people. And you could almost feel those locations as being as like, oh, okay, I know exactly how uncomfortable I'd be there.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, and they were really smart in choosing sort of new environments. Like Star Wars has very much been like, especially in the original trilogy, it's like snow planet, you know, Endor's like a forest and stuff. So bringing in the beach setting was so smart on their point. It was just smart. This is a good idea. It's good. And I did enjoy the weird craggy planet where the Imperial base is set up. There's the whole scene with the big canyon and stuff. I liked the setting for that. I thought it was well done. That being said, I did get kind of singles fatigue. Like there's so many singles with like shallowed up the field in the background, which, you know. Obviously, I just don't like shallow depth of field very much. I've learned this about myself in the course of this review show. But a lot of times it made some of the dialogue scenes, especially where there's more than two people in the room, feel very choppy and jumping around. so I would have, I think, a little deeper, especially just for, like I said, conversations with more than 2 people. I would have liked a lot more. It was hard to get a sense of the space or where people were until late into the conversation. So I would have appreciated a little more. The same thing like with when we talked about Magnificent Seven on this show, like more shots where I can see more than one person on frame, so I get more sense of a cohesion there, of more of them together. I think you need to have them visually together as much as you need to have them in the same space together.
Well, I think I mean, those choices for those kinds of shots is also very Star Wars like as well as. I mean, the purpose of those singles is to cut away everything that is technically not important. Right. And it's like it's this intense conversation.
But I mean, there's not enough shots of things like, if we're talking Star Wars, there's not enough things like the cockpit shot. I mean, the classic cockpit shot where you can see like everybody there, or the room in the Falcon with the little table off to the side and Luke's doing his training. You can see multiple characters and get a real sense of that space. The ship they're in for most of the movie is so small, and it's kind of strange that it's hard to get a sense of that space. I don't know. It could just be, sort of restrictions. I just felt like a lot of times I was watching less planned out coverage than a carefully constructed scene, which is, it's part of the style of this movie. It's very like embedded, very like ground level. It's just when you get to those slower scenes, it starts to stick out a little bit. That's all I would say. And this is nitpicking. I hope people know this. Like anytime you say something bad about a Star Wars movie, but like this is absolutely like nitpicking and stuff. But overall, I think the cinematography was really strong in this flick.
One thing I want to say about the casting and how I felt how it perpetuated the world and story was, it's like the rebellion. Not only are they incredibly racially diverse, but they're also like alien-wise diverse. And then the Empire is just all white European dudes.
Yeah, which has always had that overtone.
But in the older Star Wars movies, like everyone was white because it was the 70s, and we had the alien diversity on the Rebel side. But like in this, they like highlighted that like extra, and I thought it helped make them feel that much more oppressive.
So much so that like the only white guys in the rebellion are the ones speaking against doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was like, wow, is there all right. That being said, I do like the diversity in the cast. I really think that the majority of the main players are really great.
Yeah, and the fact that it assisted the narrative.
Yeah,
it's cool.
I really enjoyed. And it makes so much sense for. Yeah, I mean it makes sense to do. I really liked the Imperial pilot who flips. I thought his
cargo pilot.
Yeah, I thought he was a great character. I would follow that character anywhere. My favorite, of course, is Alan Tudyk's robot. I can't remember his name. K2. Awesome.
He did a great job. But that's a great character. It fulfilled a certain need and very Star Wars like in keeping with that theme. But just how that character, how that robot's character matched in with its group.
Absolutely.
Right. So just like how you have your R2 and C-3PO, they're goofy because they're hanging around some goofy people. Right.
Tonally they match.
Tonally they match, which is awesome. And Alan Tudyk, he's awesome.
K2's deadpan, serious robot, but really works, and it brings levity in a way that's definitely welcome in the script, but not in a way that destroys tone. You're totally right about that. One character I really liked, but it was like I didn't get like I love Donnie Yen in this movie. I think he kills it as like the blind, force sensitive guy. I just wish he had more of a function in the plot.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he's almost like a reference to like Seven Samurai or something. Because
I can see that.
Yeah, and I appreciate the reference. I dig it. I think it's very cool. I think he's an interesting character. I just feel bad that he doesn't really have anything to do other than remind people that the Force exists.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really apply to this movie as much.
Well,
like I'm wondering like if something got cut there. Like
it probably did. I mean, we all know that there was extensive re-edits and shoots and stuff like that. But I think where his character shines the most is as the observant outsider.
Yeah.
And so when we get to that certain point where there's the conflict between the leads, he's there to add the calming force of. He's not a Jedi, but you know, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
His crossbow staff was pretty sick too.
That was cool.
It's true. I have some technical nerdy nitpicking things, but no, it's super cool.
I don't understand its power level at all.
That's the nitpicky thing I have with it.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that
That'll
more
be
in spoilers.
Overall, plot construction wise, I thought that the first 1.5 acts are incredibly choppy. Like, I was trying so hard to anchor to a character and really get involved, and every time I would start to be getting really into it, it would cut to a new planet with a new group of people, and I got so frustrated by that. And then the fact that 20 minutes in, there's a flashback recut of what we just saw, shot for shot.
True.
I mean, I was so it took a while for me to be able to really get into it. It wasn't until they reached pretty much is it Jedi? Is that the name? Jeddah. Sorry. It's such a silly. I noticed that one city is named Jeddah, and then the other city is an anagram for Obi-Wan. It's I don't know. It doesn't matter. But yeah, it took really until then, and I was like, I think I would have been happy if the movie just started here. Or, if the backstory was worked more into the plot instead of laid out in such a linear fashion. Because I don't know, it just made it really tough to
Well, I agree when they're trying to cross cut. So that it does make it a little difficult. I think the purpose, of course, is to establish all of the pieces that are moving, because that's one of the big things about this movie is there is a lot of moving pieces, and so I guess it can be it gets difficult to just make sure that you know where you are chronologically.
Right. And, I saw a thing that this is the first Star Wars movie that they've ever used title cards for planets to tell you which planet you're actually on.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, because in most Star Wars, it's okay. You're starting here, and now you're here, and that's it.
Yeah. And they say you're going to Yavin 4. Yes, I'm going to Yavin 4. Are you going to Yavin 4? Yes, I'm going. All right.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's just a focus issue, really. You don't actually need to know everything about every character's backstory before getting into the plot proper. You can reveal things about characters as you go. And I think it's just more satisfying that way usually.
I'm sure that was an editing choice.
Oh yeah.
I
would be so interested to see the original cut of this flick. I mean,
for me, I'd love to see, and I'm sure this is just other hardcore fans or anything like that is, we'd just like to see everything that was shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just complete every scene.
Yeah. Do the special effects for everything.
Yeah, and then just put them out there just so that we know absolutely everything that happens, and then you've got your your release, but then there's all this other stuff.
Then you have fan cuts.
But that brings me to an interesting thought is they definitely took time to separate this from the normal Star Wars line. I mean,
Absolutely.
all with the Star Wars story,
Sure.
and other elements that were taken out.
I still hate it.
It's
a Star Wars story. Yeah, I know.
Do we need that?
I know. The marketing is everywhere.
Well, I have a feeling that it's because they want to create a whole nother brand with it.
But I would hate if that brand was blah blah blah, a Star Wars story. Blah, it's such a silly.
That's exactly what it's going to be.
Tackiest. I feel like somebody was like, so we just watched the trailer and I didn't see a lightsaber. Are people gonna know it's Star Wars? What?
I think people would confuse it with Episode 8. They'd be like, oh, is this Episode 8? Is this Episode 8? Which wouldn't make sense because it doesn't say Episode 8 on it. It's just Rogue One.
Yeah.
So I agree with you.
It's not.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
it is
just
ham-fisted,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it is strictly a branding
Yeah,
thing.
I just hate when I hate when you can feel somebody being like, no, reach deep in them pockets. Like,
well, think of it this way. Okay, if an analog is like Harry Potter, so there's the Harry Potter line of books. That's Harry Potter's story.
Right.
And if it's outside of the Harry Potter story, you call it Fantastical Beasts or whatever. Right.
But you don't go Fantastic Beasts and Where They Find Them, a Harry Potter story.
Yeah.
Like, let it be its own. It's fine. It's a nit.
I know it's a nitpicky thing.
It
is.
Like,
it is.
Yeah,
it totally is.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I totally derailed what you were saying.
But essentially what I was trying to say was that I got a very strong sense of an expanded universe idea going with it, like because I love world building. So anything that just tells me more about the universe in which your story is set, I love that stuff. So having a Star Wars story, and have all of those stories play out and expanding the universe more and more, I can eat all of that stuff up.
Oh yeah, I'm way down for the next whatever they're doing Star Warsy. Like this, I feel like this sets a really nice tone and stuff for these side stories. I liked a lot of the little details. I like that the first. I don't know if it's not really a spoiler. I won't say.
We can talk about details in the spoiler section.
Yeah. The soundtrack is the only thing that I feel like they needed to either decide to go full Star Wars or full its own thing, because there's times in the soundtrack where it's so close to that original ditty that I got caught because I was like, oh, they're doing the thing, and I'm get the nostalgia
and
going,
then
and then it
shift.
goes, and then it's this sounds like you're playing the wrong notes. It doesn't sound like its own thing.
I totally got that. There is, they've interviewed John Williams when the original, when the prequels first came out.
Oh, okay.
And he was talking about how difficult it was to recreate that sound, but not just rehashing the same stuff. So I think the composer had the same issue with this one.
I don't want people pulling this Indiana Jones Star Wars thing again. They have the same melody. No, I bet the composer had a hell of a time. There were so many moments that felt like they were clearly steering one way towards being super Star Warsy, and then at the last minute we're like, oh no, just kidding. What did you guys think of the references and stuff sprinkled throughout the film?
I love it.
Yeah?
I love all that stuff. Cameos, references to the next part of the story.
The cameo of the drunken bar dude.
That was
from episode 4.
That was the one record scratching I didn't like.
You didn't
like that one?
I didn't like that one because that means those guys teleport over to Tatooine.
No, that's not true. They had plenty of time.
They had plenty of time.
Leia?
They had a month or so, maybe.
We'll talk about this in spoilers. I was just about to ruin so many things.
That's true. That's true. All right. Yeah.
Anyway, we'll come back to that. All right. So we've talked about performances. We've talked about cinematography. We've talked about music. Was there anything else you guys would like to touch on the spoiler-free section before we dive into spoilers?
Characters. What you said about Donnie Yen's character and how he was just kind of there. I felt every character was just kind of there. None of them. I didn't feel attached to a single one of them, and I feel like I'm supposed to. And I feel like that's just because this movie is prey to what most Hollywood movies are prey to recently, which is spending way too much time on action and spectacle and not nearly enough time on character development or plot.
I will say there's not a lot of character development in this movie. I did think that the Jen Erso, while being incredibly bland, did have a nice arc.
Mm-hmm.
I found her to be
that was more of an acting.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It felt very like a stock. Honestly, I felt like a video game character in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like a Mass Effect character or something where they're just one note and then. But I think that's fair to say for the most part.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's also the biggest difficulty you have with what's supposed to be an ensemble movie.
Yeah. Right.
Like all of them are supposed to have their time.
Yeah, it's got to be Ocean's 11 style, you know?
Yeah. So I think that's the major hurdle to overcome, and that we won't know because there's just so much out there about what was it originally and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
But based on what we have so far, I can agree pretty much with that.
Yeah. It's kind of a shame. the fact that there were characters that I was very interested in and that we didn't really get to know at all.
Yeah.
Like Forrest Whitaker especially, I was looking so forward to seeing him in this movie, and then they set so much up about him. He's so mysterious, and you're like, oh, this is gonna be great. He's like in one scene, and then he's not.
This is a little bit of a cop-out, but I'd love to see a comic book series on each of the characters.
Oh, you will. I guarantee it.
It's like, oh, so that's where all the story is coming from, their backstory. Let's read all the comic books, and then we can watch the movie.
Yeah.
No, that's not a way a movie's supposed to work.
No. All right. We'll do final thoughts, and then we'll leap into an exhaustive spoiler section.
Yeah.
Jimmy, you want to lead us off?
Sure. I had a great time. I love adventure movies. This was fun. Yes, there's plenty of action and spectacle, but I think it's also really well done, that action and spectacle. Great environments, great ability to see so many different aspects and whatnot. I'd say I'd recommend overall. It's not the best Star Wars movie out there, but it's good. Yeah, and I right now I would say I'd prefer it more than the prequels. So.
To piggyback off that, it's definitely not the best Star Wars movie ever, but it's definitely not the worst. And it is fun. I would recommend it in the end, but don't expect to be blown away, I guess.
Yeah, I'd very much agree with that. I like it overall. I think it's a solid flick. It doesn't bring much new to the table in terms of like storytelling or it feels a lot like your standard blockbuster in a lot of ways, and that's sort of a real shame in my opinion. I feel like there was room in this story to have a lot of really genuine, awesome moments that I was wanting. I wanted them, and I never, like, it was unsatisfying in a lot of like character ways. That being said, it's a spectacle. It's very cool. There's a lot of really well executed action scenes. The third act is so good that it makes up for a lot in the movie, in my opinion. It's so solid. So yeah, I mean, I'd say definitely see it. I saw it in 3D with the little rumbly chair and like the recliner. I was 100% in it. The 3D was great. It's just it's not one of those. I bet you when somebody says let's watch a Star Wars movie, this won't be the first one anyone suggests. Yeah. It's going to be... People have been stacking it up against Force Awakens. I wouldn't. I honestly feel like that this is a very much apples and oranges situation.
Very true.
Which is nice. I'm glad that I'm not feeling like... I'm glad that it had its own feel, and I applaud them for taking a risk on it. You know, we're going to see these things till the end of time, so let's mix it up a little at least. So overall, recommend. Star Wars. You were going to see it anyway, so see it. Anyway, that's our spoiler-free section for this week. Hopefully we'll see you over at the spoiler section. We're really going to dig in because I have a feeling we've got a lot of little nerdy things to talk about. So we'll see you over there.